Okay, so the Hāmākua Community Development Plan Action Committee meeting will now come to order. It is Wednesday, August 13, 2025, and the time is 5:13. This meeting is held in person and by the interactive conference technology. The meeting will be recorded on Zoom and uploaded to the Planning Department's YouTube channel. And as a reminder, per Sunshine Law, AC members appearing remotely must keep their cameras on and announce anyone who is with them except for minors in their location. For anyone needing the meeting packet, there's a QR code on the last page of the agenda that you can scan to access that meeting packet. Okay, I'm going to call roll now. Vice Chair Mahealani Maikui. We see you. Okay. Robert Nishimoto.
Here.
Ton Kini there. And new member, Ben Dalawida.
Here.
And welcome, Ben. Ben is our new committee member. And so we now officially have quorum. And I am Brad Kurka, and I'm serving just as an acting chair. And then we do have quorum for this meeting. And then I'd like to introduce the county staff. We have Mariam Palma and Jessica Lahip and Janice Hata. And so for housekeeping, please make sure that all your cell phones are turned off or on silent mode. And if there's anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the sign up form and give it to our staff. And Zoom testifiers can send a message in chat to the Zoom hosts indicating that they wish to, indicating which item they would like to testify on. And we ask that everyone please state your name before speaking. To all of us who are attending here in person, please remember to speak towards the OWL camera, which is right there in the corner of that desk, and the microphone so that everyone on Zoom can hear and see. And then today, aloha etiquette for today's meeting, pretty standard. Please maintain an open and positive attitude. Listen to understand. Everyone has a right to share and be comfortable with their own ideas. And it is okay to disagree as long as it is done respectfully. And if you need to argue the issue and not against the person. One person speaks at a time with no side conversations, please. And limit distractions by turning cell phones off and not doing outside work during a meeting. And in appreciation, everyone's time limit, please, or honor the time limits for your testimony. Okay, and the next item is approval of minutes. And the time is 5:16, and the committee will now consider approving the draft minutes from October 9th, 2024. That was our last meeting. May I ask for a motion to approve the October 9 meeting minutes as circulated?
Brett, could I make a comment? Of course, what you're looking for is approval of the accuracy of the minutes, and I find certainly no fault with the accuracy of the minutes. However, it's been 10 months, I think, since we had a meeting, and so much has gone on, probably in that 10 months, without my probably noticing a great deal of what has been taking place. But back in that particular time period, there were so many interesting issues that were taking place, and the minutes went to some of those issues.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping that Heather, when we came to the section of third-party reports from government officials, maybe Heather could inform us of the status of some of these things that are referred to in the minutes. For instance, the general plan, Bill 121, Bill 181, Bill 212, I think there were a number of
Yeah.
important issues there,
Sure.
which I would very much appreciate
Okay.
being informed about.
Yeah, and then I've been talking to Heather. She'll update us on some of those items
Yeah, good.
that are indicated there. So we will do that. Do any,
I make a motion to accept the um minutes of our October 9th, 2024 meeting.
okay, are there any further corrections or issues with that? No, okay, so I'm gonna just call for I gotta vote, right? Or just
Second.
second, okay.
Yeah.
So it's been moved and second to approve the minutes of October 9th, 2024. All those say aye
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed,
Aye.
no? Okay. Okay. Okay, those minutes, October 9th, 2024 are approved as distributed and corrected. And now we'll have public testimony on agenda items. So we're going to call for statements from the public. It is 5:19. So,
Hello, may I say something before we move on? I am
Sure.
at home. I'm just fully disclosing. I am at home. My mom's with me, but I have my earphones on, so they cannot hear the conversations. You may see her walking in the background or whatever, but you guys are just in my ears. Just so
okay,
you know.
thanks, Mahia. Okay, so do we have any testifiers that want to testify at this time, or do they want to testify when we discuss the agenda items? Agenda, okay, we will proceed then. Okay, so we'll move on to the in-person testimony, and we have how many testifiers? No. Okay. All right, so okay. Oh, so we don't have any in person. I thought we did. No. Oh, okay. At the beginning. Okay. And on Zoom testimony, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to provide? Nobody on Zoom. Okay, great. Okay. All right, so the time is 5:20 and the committee will now move on to business item number 1. The first one is election of committee chairperson. And so it's open for discussion and yeah.
I'd like
Okay.
to nominate Mahea as being vice chair at the present time.
Okay. All right. Anybody else nominate?
I second that.
Okay, great.
I
Mahia?
like to nominate Uncle Brad.
Okay, any other nominations? No, I'm not gonna nominate. She already nominated me. Okay, so let's see. And then so Mahea, are you willing to accept the nomination?
I defer to you, Uncle. Like honestly, right now, with things that are happening at the youth center and we trying to expand, I am taking some college classes, and so I think right now it would be a little bit too much, and I wouldn't be able to fulfill that kuleana. And I like learn from the pro. You know, you've been on here for like how long, so that way I can
Too
make
long.
sure I fulfill the shoes properly.
Okay, I will, with reservation, accept. And some of you who do know me, I've been serving on the steering committee and as chair for quite a bit of time. So I'm ready to have other people step up. But at the moment, since we're just starting up for, and then trying to re-engage with our community, I will accept. So I guess do we need to vote? I guess we do need to vote. Okay, so yeah, so as far as that process, I guess I'm the only nominee, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
I,
those opposed?
mahalo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move on to item number 2. Papaco and Pipikil and the bus stop shelters. So we are going to have an update.
Hi, everyone. My name is Casey Kailikea. I'm representing Mass Transit. I'm the transit program manager for Fixed Routes. Zach, who is our acting administrator, was unable to come to the meeting today. So for the Papaiko and the Pipikil bus shelters, right now we are actively looking into placing those bus shelters next, or I should say at the end of this month. We have, with the assistance with the mayor's office, DPW, R&D, and the state, they're going to be having a site visit to look at both areas for the potential bus stop and bus shelter location.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Casey. Is there anyone else that would like to provide testimony on this item? Daryl?
Hi, my name is Daryl Argel. I kind of question, where are you guys going to put the bus stop in Pipikil?
So in Pipikil, the proposed site location that they're looking at is near the see here. It would be, right now it's across of the post office area, but they're looking at the intersection further Hāmākua. And that would include a bus pullout and a crosswalk as well. And that's what they're going to be looking at the end of the month to see if that is a viable place for a bus stop and shelter.
Is that by the crosswalk or by the elderly center?
It would be on Highway 19.
Highway 19?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So would the existing bus stop across of the store on Highway 19 be one of the sites you guys might be looking at?
No, it would be moved to the, it would be moved further Hāmākua. When they assessed, we had a consultant firm, SSFM, look at all of the current flag stops and bus stop locations to ensure ADA compliance. And with that area there, they made a recommendation to move it further Hāmākua.
Okay, at the crosswalk right before the apartments.
At the intersection of Highway 19.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to know, I heard some other stories that there's another bus stop in front of the elderly senior center located upside.
So that bus stop is already there. That Route 60 and Route 1 go to. However, for the commuter route, Route 80, it would be on the highway.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to get some for your information about this bus stop, because I presented this issue a long time ago.
Yes, you're Mr.
I'm
Dawidad.
I'm sorry, I forget to introduce my name. My name is Ben Dalawidao, and me and my bus manager, Sak Bergum, me and him went to observe and investigate this area. And he took pictures on it. And so up to now, there's no action being done. So but anyway, the issue is, I've been driving my girlfriend on that issue in Papaiko, and there no bus stop, and there's not enough light we were being harassed twice on that area. It's so dark on that bottom of that big trees, mango and whatever trees that. But it's so dangerous to have somebody waiting for the bus on that area. Because it happened to us. And so she's been taking the bus for 25 years. And there's no shade. If it rains, they get wet. Okay, and there's no light, enough light. And again, in Pepekeo, right here in your area, right here, we came and checked that area where they should put the bus stop in there. There's a lot of, I have all the names for these people who take the bus. And I even presented to Heather. And so this issue has been going for a long time. I don't even know when, but my girlfriend's been taking the bus for 25 years. Imagine putting your shoes on their shoes in their place. Yes, that's a big issue. That's a safety issue. And that's one thing I want to put an input about this because it's long overdue. Thank you.
Okay, so another question is, are these just bus stops or are they going to be bus shelters with some sort
So
of shelter?
the proposal is to include a bus shelter. The challenge is that it is a state highway,
Right.
and with our conversations with the state, they also would require a bus pullout location
Mhm.
so that the bus does not stop on the highway. So
Right.
that is the challenge because of the location, which is why there's going to be a site visit at the end of the month with the different departments.
Okay, so they'll assess it from a technical standpoint in terms of pull off, but then also these other concerns that are being brought up in terms of security and lighting and that so on.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, we need a light on that place, on this. Pepekeo is not that much because you got a lot of light on that store and on that corner. But again, we talk about putting a bus stop in there because there's an accident in there. We're not gonna wait until somebody died to make a final action.
Okay.
That's very dangerous right there and in Pepekeo. A lot of accidents happen to those corners.
Okay.
And so we need to do something for the safety of all of us.
So, Casey, can you let us know when so that what Ben, you want to participate when they meet out there with the site visit?
Yeah,
Ben or Daryl? Okay. Yeah. So can we do that just to at least have, like some members of the community that have, obviously live here and are affected by that also at least be there as observers and, participants from the community?
What I can do is I can advise Zachary Burgum, who is now our temporary our TA administrator for our agency, know, and he does have I'm sorry, I can't say your last name, but Uncle Ben, he calls you Uncle Ben. He does have your phone number and contact information. Who would be the best person to contact for that?
well, I've been contacting with Zach Burgum.
Yeah. So he has your numbers.
Yeah,
He will
Yeah,
contact.
so-
we communicate together.
So
Okay.
I'll advise him of that, and he can get in touch with you.
Okay.
Okay.
That'd be great. Anybody else have testimony on this issue of the, sure.
You know when you guys have the site visit? Can you hear me? Is it going to be planning like off-site parking for some of the residents or bus riders or like a walkway and a lighted area for the walk?
That I'm not sure of at this time. because DPW as well as research and development and the state are going to be in that conversation and then make determinations.
Okay, okay,
But then what we can do is possibly at the next meeting, we can bring an update to you folks as well.
okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone, if there are no other testimony, then does anyone wish to make a motion on this item, or should we just move forward on the agenda? Seems like, you know, though you guys will be involved with the site meeting, and then hopefully, Ben, you can report back, or if you guys want to come to the next meeting to see what transpires from that meeting. Yeah, okay. All righty. Okay, so moving on to item number 3, the update from meeting with the Office of Housing and Community Development and Vice Chair Mahealani. Casey, thank you very much for participating.
Oh, thank you, folks. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Am I
Mahealani.
sideways on your thing? Yes, uncle. Am I sideways? Yeah. There we go. Okay. It was a really awesome and informative meeting today. Jess and Mariam were there also. And ladies, please jump in if there's anything that I missed. I asked them about the subdivision that was proposed a few years ago. Here in Hāmākua, they are talking about putting in about 30 homes. And so I just had some questions, and speaking to Neil Erickson today, he was there, and they answered the questions that I know some of the community had, because there's a throwaway ditch that kind of goes through the properties that borders my dad's property. And so one of my questions I was asking, like, what happens? It wasn't explained at the meeting years ago. However, Neil did express today that he had just gotten some more of the drafts that, you know, now the road is gonna be in a certain way. So the water, because the water was the concern. And my concern was the water, because when it rains, when there are torrential rains, it does fill up. And one of the homes, my neighbors about 4 houses up, their home has gotten water, some water or flooded. So I was concerned. Those are just some of the questions that came up from my neighbors, and they answered a lot of the questions that we did have. However, that project is on hold right now, one, because of funding. They did reassure us that when it does come on deck and ready to be funded, or when it becomes a priority of the Office of Housing, we will be notified. So that was a plus. They also shared some, I don't know how we can get this out, but they shared some information, you know, home improvement loan program for community. I don't know how I can share that. Some people, if county housing, the wait list for Section 8 is open. And then a coordination center to Kokua with to navigate, connect with housing financial. So this is like what Vibrant Hawaii is doing with their navigators, helping people sign up and connect with financial offices, Section 8, DHEAP, and all that stuff. So I got some good information. I'm excited to share with my community.
Okay, thanks, Mahealani. Does
Thank
anyone
you.
else have any other items in regards to that, the housing?
Mariam, did I miss anything? Mariam, Jess?
She's asking you, no?
Okay, cool.
Okay, any other discussion on that item? No? I guess we can just move forward on this on the agenda, because I don't think there's any particular motion for that. So we move on to item number 4, which is the proposed amendment to the planning department's public notice procedures. And is there anyone that wants to provide testimony on that? And what it has to do is we have the basically you want to present on.
So at our last chair meeting, it was brought up about public notice procedures. This isn't new for this committee. This was a pre-existing topic. So what was requested is that we actually look into doing an amendment to where it says within Hawaii County Code, the public notice procedures for the planning department specifically. This is only about the planning department. So as we discussed in that meeting, there was some drafted language. This is what they kind of came up with, where right now, currently planning department for a variety of their applications will just post it in the newspaper on a semi-monthly basis in 2 newspapers within the county, where they'll be listing the property owner, the tax map key of the property, the land area, and the street address. It's very similar for also the subdivision public notice procedures. These are the 2 areas where that exists for the planning department. They requested to have this posted online as well. Planning department currently does post online as a courtesy on our website. At the bottom of the webpage, we have 3 tiles that break down the different land use applications that come through. But they're requesting that it be distributed through other digital platforms or public notification systems. So that may include like a email listserv, essentially, be created for these, that the people can go and sign up and put in their email, and then anytime the planning department does this public notice, they will get notified of the public notice and have the content there for them. This would be for all of them, just like they do in the newspapers. You just get that blurb. It wouldn't be district specific or anything like that, which was other things that were being brought up at our last meetings. This is a proposal. This would require a lot, right? So the idea is this would be a code amendment. This would have to go through planning commission, county council, mayor, all of these kinds of steps. But this is what you guys were working on last time, and Uncle Brad and Mahealani at our last meeting, when reviewing your previous action items, it was one of the ones that was highlighted the most. The initial first steps would be to bring this up to planning, that you guys are proposing this. You guys do have a corporation council, so they could get guidance in those ways as well from them. But yeah, that's the basic gist of how this proposal came to be. This is a very rough proposal, just to start the conversation. I don't know. Was anything, Brad or Mahal? That's kind of what you guys were.
Right. Well, basically it's, we'd like to know just have things a little bit more accessible for the general public to know what's going on in terms of land use, rezoning, subdivision notices, those types of things. Right now, it's just in the two newspapers, which, I don't know how many people actually read the newspaper anymore or subscribe to it. And so this is just an attempt to kind of, and I think it's kind of an island-wide issue. So that needs to be, just more transparent, because we do have, like supposedly, the Epic system for permits and those types of things going on. It's supposed to be accessible, but I don't know how accessible it is. But anyway, that's sort of the overall thrust of this. So is there any discussion on it?
I personally think that this is a important step forward. And
Yeah.
so what would be the next step?
I think like Mariam was mentioning, we can, adopt this initial one as a, sort of just put it forward to planning and then Corp Council. And then I guess perhaps another thing would be to, at the same time, put it out to the other ACs so that they can, see if they, support that. And then once, general support or not, then we can just figure out, if it moves forward to those entities to adopt. And obviously it's going to have to go to planning commission and county council, right? Yeah.
I haven't seen this until just now.
Yeah.
Obviously, we cannot vote on this because it hasn't been presented to us, until this moment. But I would think that this would be something that if you could put that in the minutes and on the agenda of our next meeting, I think it would be something that, in fact, we could, as a action committee, address by voting.
So this is basically Brad's first draft at this, and what can happen is it can be voted on today, that
It's on the agenda now.
because it's on the
This
agenda.
is-
I understand that this wasn't put into the
Yeah.
meeting packet, but it can be amended right now as well. Like you can adjust it. You can actually say not this at all. You can say this, I don't want this, I haven't read it, but I want to propose X, Y, and Z changes. And then we can also put that together into something that gets sent to.
Whomever.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to take a minute to look it over, that's allowed.
So
If you see
that-
something missing, you can add it. If you see something you don't like, you can propose to remove it. This is just his conversation starter.
Yeah, so that's the current code in section 25, which is the subdivision code.
Yes, so that's the current code, and then anything that's underlined
Is the proposed.
is what was being added to it. You see, it's underlined under semi, that's just, Word saying that it didn't like that. But everything else is what is being proposed as a change.
Yeah.
And this
So-
it doesn't necessarily mean that this conversation happens like that. There's a lot of ways that this could play out. It may not even come to a zoning change. It could just be something that happens internally,
Mhm.
But the idea was the conversation starting kind of point and giving them something to work with.
Right, this is a great start. And so whenever on the last paragraph where it says such list shall, is that following? Sessions shall also be posted on the official website. So will that piece, do we need to decipher that it needs to include all of this, or because it's stated there, it will be included? I don't know if my brain is registering this correctly. Am I making sense? The underlying part where it says such list shall, do we need to add in the previous sentence also, or because it's stated in there, whenever it's posted to the website, it will have all of those things on there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the idea is that it would be the same information, but across different platforms.
Thank you. Yes, that's what
Yeah.
I was getting at. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good start on Brad.
Well, thank you, Mariam, and the planning department for, helping us kind of craft something. It's basically, like, as Mariam said, it's just a starter so that we can decide if we want to move ahead in whatever manner to, broaden the access to the thing, which to me is sort of a no-brainer because it should be, just easily accessible, because I don't think people necessarily going to read, those public notices. I don't, in terms of scanning through that for any of the things. And we would still have to, and I still don't understand why, it wouldn't be, it could be sorted, but that's something to be discussed
Can I
within
just-
internally.
Right, can I just state here that not everyone out here in Hāmākua, once you get closer to white people, has access to a good newspaper. Like,
Yeah,
they would come
exactly.
randomly, so I think I feel that having something accessible online or at the county website especially is super awesome.
Yeah, and like in this case, we noted that, if people want to get on a public, like a listserv that says, okay, I want to be notified of all these whatever planning actions, they can sign up for that and it'll go directly to them, as a listserv.
Thanks. This is what Ton has been asking for since I started.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Heather?
Yeah, just a couple of editorial comments. And what I'd suggest or I'd offer is, if you want me to take this back, I can have it go through LRB for a review, the legislative review branch, just to check language. But the one thing that stands out to me is the phrase other digital platforms or public notification systems. I think you guys are either going to be specific about what you do want or you don't want, just from the standpoint of that could be interpreted as like the department would be, they could put it up on MySpace, right? Because it's a digital platform, but nobody uses it anymore, right? So,
Right.
maybe you want to specify that it's a listserv or something like that, but the way it's worded there, it's open to any sort of public notification system.
Right.
So you may want to be more specific.
Okay.
Does anybody use MySpace? Do you guys know what MySpace is? You guys might be too young.
Okay, so so I guess what Heather is saying, and I agree, is that we should be maybe more specific. So I would think that it should be on a County of Hawaii, website, either wherever planning or
Yeah, it's referring to the distribution. So it's already posted on an official county website. That's fine.
okay.
It's this distribution piece and specifying, I mean, it sounds like the intention is to have it go out through an email distribution. So I would just say that, right? Rather than having it be vague like that, because I wouldn't expect the department to do this, but they could certainly opt to with the language as it sounds right there.
Good catch.
What would you
Spend
suggest?
all my day doing that. I would say, I think you could just say email if that's what you guys really are wanting is that it's distributed as a listserv
Email notification.
to people that sign up. I would just say an email.
I think one question would be whether somehow or other, and I have a hard time imagining that it would be practical, but could some way or another, only those permits that are in a particular area be sent to people in that area, or in, if,
Like they can subscribe for different.
you know,
areas.
in other words, I'm not that interested in seeing, permits that are issued for South Dakota. I wonder if there's any way that it can be, directed.
Yeah, yeah, this is definitely something that Uncle Brad mentioned that you guys talked at a few meetings last year about. And as of right now, I've had multiple conversations with our GIS team, with our IT team. And so the common idea so far is that Epic system should be able to provide for us that. Like it should have that capability.
So,
But as of right now, the answer is basically it doesn't. There's a lot of work that needs to be done internally within the different systems, the different databases, the who owns what. There's just so many different layers of it that we're just not there yet. And we're not going to be there anytime soon in the near future. It's just it would be nice, it'd be cool. There's definitely some like ways that we have like
The tax map key.
drafted.
I mean, the tax map key, I mean, like, it basically.
It's
can-
there.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Sorted and
system
filtered.
isn't set up for it. And so we
Yeah.
would have to create a whole nother layer of system to bring that to life. And it's definitely, I agree. I'm 100% on board with you. That'd be awesome to have it by district. You don't want to know what's happening in North Kohala. But it's just it's unfortunate. We're just not there. I've tried.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
sure.
Mariam,
Yes.
one thing to look at is like how the OHCD has theirs, like how the current projects and they had them in divided in sections in area. Hāmākua, Hilo.
Mhm.
You remember when they were showing us on the
Yeah.
screen this morning? That would be nice too. I mean, if they can just divide it like that. But
Yeah.
would that need a whole person to do that? That's why? Or is that division just lazy and they don't like do the work?
Yeah, it would be lovely. It's my dream. It would be beautiful that way.
Okay.
But it's just not there. The way we intake this data, the way like the system is set up, the GIS team has a lot of work before we can get to that point.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Mariam, is that coming from the planning GIS? Is it coming from what is that? The GIS, not GIS, but the department that's in charge of the tech or what?
So, okay, so within the planning department, we have staff that specialize in GIS and they manage an internal database for us. They also partner and work with other department GIS teams for like the county's entire system. On top of that, we also have the IT department, which is
Right.
important in helping us with our Epic system. And there's a lot of like overlay across the different areas. So because we've switched to Epic, that would kind of be the source for where this data would come from. But the way Epic works and the logs, we don't own Epic. It's a whole separate company. And so touching into their databases is just not feasible right now, especially the way that it's like a whole IT ones and zeros whole situation. They basically told me it's not going to happen right now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's too bad because the real property tax office, like you can look at the island by section. And that, how come you guys don't use what other departments are using? Like, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I think this is a start. Because for like on the real property tax, I can look up specifically in zone 4, which is like this area or I don't know. I think there are easier ways and I hear you. So, okay, I can stop now. But
I'll
I
look
think
into
this
that.
is a beautiful
I
start.
can look into.
Here's my sense is that I think we should ask for it, that information, put it on, on the email and then the county website, be it the planning department, and then ask for a preference, very strong preference for it to be, because based on my, like planning is intaking this. I mean, and I know they have to put it into Epic, but it would be very simple whenever a project is application is taken at the desk, at the front desk, just identify what district it is, and then someone would just, and then when it needs to be, you take that information and whenever it gets inputted on a semi-monthly basis, then just check that list and then say that this is the applications that came in. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, we can include that in the
Yeah.
request.
Okay. Thanks, Neil. Okay, so any other further discussion? I guess what I can do is I will, I guess, if we can just kind of edit this thing at least, and then we can take a vote on it in terms of what we want to propose. That will be sent back to planning and corp counsel and whoever is involved in evaluating this as a action from our committee. Okay.
Or
Actually, if we just cross out and be distributed through email, we could just make the last sentence, such list shall also be posted on an official county website, and the director shall maintain a public subscription system to allow interested individuals or organizations to receive notices via email.
Yeah, and then I guess what I wanted to add is, our requested preference for it to be segregated, the information to be designated per district. Yeah, per district.
So we'll put this on a letterhead, on your guys' letterhead. We'll have a little intro today at this meeting, XYZ.
Yeah.
We'll put this separate language stating that you guys have this preference for it to be categorized by district.
Yeah.
We'll put this and then we'll have it flow.
Yeah.
And it would include those things like that.
Okay.
As discussed. Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion and we can vote on it? Okay, so I guess the motion, I'm going to make a motion then that we submit, this request to planning and whoever, corp counsel and other folks with that language, including the preference for it to be also requesting it per district. Is there a second?
I second motion.
Mahealani seconds.
Okay, so it's been motioned and second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
I
Okay, seems like it passed. Right, okay, so that'll move ahead. Moving
wow,
right
guys, I'm
along.
feeling accomplished.
One thing, yes.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the YPO Steering Committee update, and we'll ask Council Member Heather
Yeah.
share updates.
Come to the hot seat. So we had our reconvening of the YPO Valley Steering Committee meeting that was open to actually anybody that wanted to participate in the valley at John Kane's Taro Farm, which was really fabulous. It was just a really great opportunity for the steering committee to connect. And we went through we gave everybody an opportunity to kind of share their vision about what a management program for the valley might look like and some of the next steps. And so, I think that the key things that folks were looking for were a strong educational component for both residents and visitors alike about the importance of the valley, about not being bad visitors, about the history, the culture, the environmental sensitivity of the place. So education was really important. There was a sense of wanting to provide visitors, residents as well, who were visiting the valley an opportunity to contribute if they made a visit. There was a strong feeling that, the relationship with the valley has always been kind of extractive for people that have been coming to it, and that a solution to that is kind of twofold. It's got to be people from the valley saying these are ways that you could help us and that you could have a purpose for coming down and and you could contribute while you're here. So being able to create some sort of system that connected folks in the valley that had needs in terms of, helping with the lo'i or building a rock wall or cutting back invasive species, whatever, providing a list of those opportunities for folks that wanted to visit the valley so that they would have a purpose and would be able to contribute in terms of visiting. There was still some discussion about pedestrians on the road. And what I will say is I think I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce the bill that prohibited pedestrians on the roadway, with the exception that prohibition would be around certain time periods. So it's kind of a middle of the road compromise, understanding that we want to minimize the interaction between pedestrians and cars on the road, but then there is all of this need for right of access to folks that are traversing on foot. And so kind of understanding, and Mahealani, you can help me with this, but understanding the hours of the day which are most active for the taro farmers and the folks in the valley. So probably, 2-3 hour period in the morning, 2-3 hour period in the middle of the day, 2-3 hour period in the afternoon, where during those times pedestrians would be prohibited. Then of course, probably during between dusk and dawn, so overnight as well. So that's one of the things that the group is interested in putting forward. The other is the Vahipana designation legislation, and so this is something I'm super excited about because we would definitely be the first in the state, but I think we would also be the first in the nation that would have this kind of designation. And the idea is to have an overlay of, well, not just YPO Valley, but other places that are culturally significant, that are also overloved and need some sort of management plan associated with them. But the Vahipana overlay would use the historical text to define protocols, kapu kanawai, for a space. And these protocols and whatnot would be used to define both regulatory and non-regulatory recommendations for entrance into the space. And so it's not really land use, so I'm not going to put it in Chapter 25 as a land use policy. It's more of a set of guidelines about how you interact with the space and be respectful with the space. And include things like resource management, so water management, carrying capacity, like putting a limit on the number of people that can access a space during the day. So I'm about 75% done with the draft on that. We're trying to schedule another meeting. You got to fill out my polls, Alani. Try to get everybody together again. It is like herding cats with this group because everybody's so busy with other things. But I hope to have them review it. The idea would be that proposals would either come from the Cultural Resource Commission and they would do the research in terms of the historical texts with the partnership with R&D, or it could be initiated through the council by a resolution, and we would propose the area that would be designated and identify why it should be designated and some of the sort of preliminary research about the historical and cultural relevance of the place. So that's what we're looking at is as two steps that are pretty near in the future, I would say before the end of this year. The permitting system is still underway with IT, and not sure if it's been so long since we have met with you guys, but the Department of Information Technology is working with Salesforce to develop a new permitting system for like the gazebos and stuff at the parks, the pavilions. And we're hoping to kind of piggyback on that for a permitting system to access the road. And so that is underway, although I haven't had any recent updates from IT about how that implementation. Do you know anything about? Oh, Bethany's gone. You guys probably haven't heard anything about that, but yeah, it seems like it's very slow going with DIT on that, but hopefully we still have quite a bit of time. I think at least a year and a half, if not two, in terms of the road reopening fully after DPW does their repairs. So happy to take any questions on that.
I'm not sure that I understand what your vision would be of who will have access to the valley 2 years from now.
So to be clear, the roadway is a public road. So we're obligated to have it open to everyone.
I see.
Of course, there's always nowhere to go down there. I mean, the beach road is a road in limbo, so that's a public road, and the beach is a road, but where do you park and all of that stuff? The vision is not so much about keeping folks in or keeping folks out. It's about making sure that when people interact with the space and come to visit there, they behave appropriately. So think of it as this Vahipana overlay is going to dictate how people should behave and be respectful in the space. It's a little different. Like I said, this will probably be the first in the country sort of a thing. So I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out, but when reading the historical text with respect to, looking at the Oli, the Malay, the key take home message about YPO, well, there's two. One is that it's always changing, like it's always caving in, water's moving, like it's dynamic space. The second one is you don't go to YPO unless you have a purpose. And so part of the protocol would be to ensure that any visitor to the space came and had some sort of purpose of being there. Either they're contributing in some way, they're helping out one of the farmers. The main thing is that they have a purpose. Now, we can't require everybody to have a purpose, but I do think that for the most part, visitors are going to be receptive of this idea that we're sharing. Part of this is again, the education piece. We're sharing with them about how you be a good visitor to this space. And I think people will be, appreciative of that understanding.
Did you indicate that there would be a permit issued for people to go into YPO?
That's what we're looking at is that we can create a system where they're required to have a permit to go down, but we have to make that permit available to everyone because it's a public road. What we would probably do is set it up so that the residents, obviously, they get a permit for $1 a year. And the surfers who maybe don't know when they're coming down, they get a monthly permit for a couple of bucks. And then visitors, we would probably require to get a permit a week or so in advance so that they can't just show up to the valley and go down. They would get the permit a week in advance. They'd have to check off that they know how to drive a 4-wheel drive, that they've checked their rental agreement and they're allowed to go down there, probably watch a little video about driving on the road safely. And then they would have this list of things that would be curated with the residents of the valley of options that they could choose to contribute while they're there. That's the vision.
And are you visualizing capping the number of permits to be given on a particular day?
That would be what part of what we're trying to accomplish with this, and that's been. We tried to issue a state, there was the state bill that we were trying to get through. And we got pretty far, and I probably will put it through again and keep knocking on that door. But using the Vahipana overlay, if the Cultural Resources Commission voted to say, this area has these conditions and therefore it should have a cap, I think that would be sufficient enough to allow us to have a limit in terms of capacity, a limit. And that's been kind of the tricky part. I mean, I think by default, to some extent, if you said visitors, non-residents had to apply a week or two in advance, in a way that would inadvertently cap it, right? But
Yeah.
doing it through the Vahipana overlay, if there was a public process where the Vahipana was established that with a carrying capacity, I think that would be sufficient enough for us to limit the number of permits.
Okay.
Question.
Yes,
So the public access is only to the beach.
yes,
So people walk into the falls is basically crossing private land.
that's correct.
Okay.
The trail over to Waimanu is also public,
Okay.
but to the back of the valley is not.
So right now, there's a time frame where people can go there.
No, that is something that I'm looking at putting forward as a
So
bill.
right now, there's no posted in there what time people can go there.
There's, right now, because of the emergency closure, there's no pedestrian access in the valley. You cannot walk down the road at all right now. And that will be true until they lift the emergency order, which will happen at some point. And so the idea, because I don't think we can get through the council a complete prohibition on pedestrian access, the middle of the road compromise is to restrict the times where pedestrian access would be allowable when it would be the most safe.
Only four-wheel drive can go down there.
Only four-wheel drive can go down there, yes. And under the current emergency order, only Hawaii residents are allowed to go down at this time, but that is only allowed because of the emergency order, which will not
So
remain
there's
forever.
Excuse me. So there's a sign there, no walking, no
Yes.
pedestrian.
Yes. Yes, but people did anyway.
And so we're looking to a plan to have a camping issue that
It's not a camping permit. It's just a permit to use the road, but doing it through the camping portal of the Parks and Rec Department.
yeah, what I'm saying is in the near future, are we gonna be planning to put to have somebody have to use that place for camping?
No,
No, okay.
No.
no camping.
Okay. All right.
No.
Thank you.
The other question I had is, I guess, where would be the right place to, like you said, the Vahipana through the Cultural Commission?
Mhm.
Is it sufficiently staffed? Do they have the, the resources to, not only the process, but also, engaging community, come up with these various management plans?
Mhm.
And then is there sufficient protection to enforce these, and because I know we had asked the planning department, what are some of the planning mechanisms
Mhm.
to help support that?
Yeah.
Because that's obviously where it came from, the CDP stuff. Yeah.
So those are both really good questions. Right now, in terms of the current organization, and so the Cultural Resource Commission doesn't have a budget of their own, right? So
Right.
that is something that needs to be addressed. In terms of, it is a volunteer board, so whether or not they have the capacity or the time. Part of my intention in the legislation is to enable them to work with R&D. So I mentioned we did the Hāmākua process with R&D
Right.
that was supported through funding from EKF. So giving them the opportunity to partner with R&D and EKF or contract with any consultant, it doesn't have to be EKF, to engage in that sort of process is going to be part of the legislation. What the end product will be of the Cultural Resources Commission's work is an ordinance. So they'll be putting together a management plan and an ordinance. And so the ordinance will have the force of law. And I don't want to put any sort of blanket enforcement in there because each Vahipana is going to have very different things that are the rules
Right.
and whatnot. So depending on what that recommendation is, the ordinance will actually have the rules and so will contain the enforcement piece at the
Yeah.
time. So it's kind of putting all that off until we get there, but
Right.
that's the plan, is the best way to kind of make sure that the rules and the enforcement stand together and aren't kind of piggybacking on any
Sure.
of the existing structure we have, because
Right.
it's going to be different for each
Right.
place.
So, I guess, like sort of the on the boots type of on the ground type of engagement. And I know we have this steering committee. And so I guess I would like to ensure that there is a process and mechanism so that the continued group or whatever community-based input is, taken in and then developed, because it's going to be both technical, it's going to be planning, it's going to be cultural, it's going to, environmental, all those things
Yep.
are going to feed into the, what the ordinance is going to uphold. So I
Right.
guess that's sort of the thing that I know, like, we've been trying to kind of get going.
And part of what I'm writing into the process to that point is
Yeah.
to make sure that there's requirements for public hearings, but also requirements for public meetings, community meetings with the members in
In the valley.
in the potential Vahipana designation. And remember, this is going to be a broad thing. It's not just for
Right, not
YPO.
just
It
for
creates a
exactly.
process to designate
Exactly.
YPO. But yeah, so I'm writing into it the mandate that they have community meetings and include that as part of the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heather, may I say
Yes.
something? Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of have a very naive question because I'm not a cultural practitioner.
Uh-huh.
But one thing that really struck me is I grew up Hāmākua, so I know we do the usual Hāmākua stuff. I went to Kauai after Hurricane Iniki. The cultural perspective of stream critters are so different. When I went to Kauai, the families fish and live around the Opo migration boatways. Their terminologies you can find. So I said, okay, this is great. People become more perception of this idea of my valley or your valley. When I came back here, is there something similar here that I can tap for information? I went to Kohala, I went as much as I could. I couldn't find anyone. I think maybe it's simply an issue of evolution. We're 5 million years apart here in the Big Island.
Mhm.
Big Island's going to become like Kauai in 5 million years. So my question is, can we bring the cultural committee to bring some practitioners from Kauai with their cultural practice?
Mhm.
Over here, you really don't have the Opo as a big part of the Makai perception. There's no idea the perception between Ama and blockages at the stream mouth. But this is very obvious on Kauai because on Kauai here, when you go fishing over here in a mountain, you just bring your spear and that's about it. On Kauai, they bring a throw net because the Ama goes way upstream because simply the valley became much wider. So I don't have the professional credential to make this statement, but I'd like to see the culture committee look wider than simply Big Island. To get some influence from people that have lived up there. And because what I think they practice there and here is not different, but they just simply one is more emphatic on one side versus the other.
Yeah. I think there'd be some resistance to that. I mean, I understand the need, and I do think that the process has to allow for evolution and changes over time, which will most certainly happen. But, one of the things, and Mahealani can attest to this, we did this Honua Kaikea process with EKF. And I was surprised, honestly, about how much cultural information exists in some of the texts around YPO. But a lot of it is interpretation of sort of the poetry of the Mele or the stories, and into like practical, this is how they were trying to reflect what happened at the time as far as management and understanding the place. Do you want to contribute to that at all in terms of like what your experience with the process? My feeling is that if we looked at some of the texts and the traditional sources of information, there's a huge repository of valuable cultural resources, as well as like the stories from the lineal descendants and folks like that. Mahealani, you want to add to that?
Yes, Uncle Bobby, a lot of cultural practitioners are doing the Hāmākua Kavalu, which is like that's the way that they learned from their past, and our kupuna kept our things hidden, and in the mo'olelo and in the oli and in the mele that we all share, like Kaulananapua and whatever. One of the chants that we did do about Waipio, it's a lot to do when you tap into that indigenous brain, yeah, your DNA. When you tap into that, it serves you in a way that you are able to understand that a certain what our kupuna are saying in the mele and the oli. Because even when I asked my cousin about some O'Kala stuff, and she was like, "Cousin, you have to look in the oli and the mele. Like, there's hardly any about O'Kala." So then we look to the kupuna, the living people of this area. I do understand what you're saying, though, because a lot of our older generation are not here, and our generation, not that you and I get same generation, but that generation didn't take the time to go and learn those things. So my generation is taking the time, and even the generation before us, after us, are taking the time to look deeply into the things that our kupuna have left for us. We do practice similar things as other islands, but you know best because you were born and raised here. Nothing like Hawaii Island.
Something that might be good for this group is actually to bring in Freesia from R&D and maybe go through one of, I remember particularly we were reading one, and I can't recall, maybe you remember which one it was, that kind of talked about the water cycle and tarot and everything. And I mean, if you can interpret it outside of the poetry of it, there's scientific guidance about how you should manage water in Waipio. And so that's kind of the idea.
Period, just manage water.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. So maybe that's something we could make happen. I think you guys would really kind of enjoy the experience of taking one of these historical mele or stories and kind of translating it and interpreting it into, this kind of, I don't want to use the regulatory, but I can't think of a better one, but a regulatory framework that would come from it.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? I think that was helpful. in terms of kind of updating and seeing where things are at. And I know that you're trying to schedule another meeting with the steering committee.
Yes.
Right.
Fill out your polls. You too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think, in this item, we'll just, move forward on the agenda. And the next item would be public testimony on matters not on the agenda. I'll wait for you in terms of the announcements for some of the discussion and the other stuff. Nothing. Okay, no further public testimony. Third party reports, government officials. So I guess Heather, if you could let me see. Yeah, update us on some of on the previous meeting that we had, our CDP Action Committee meeting. There was some bills that were in the works, and I know Ton mentioned that. So if you could sort of update us on those various efforts.
Oh, okay, sorry. Technology. All right, so I wanted to perhaps start with not something we talked about last time, but something that's related to it and is very important to this group. Since you last met, the council did form an ad hoc committee. The members are myself, Ashley Kirkowitz, Rebecca Villegas, and Jennifer Kagiwara. And our task is to review the organization, the code with respect to the formation of the action committees and try to figure out how to improve their function. And so at some point or another, we'll be coming and talking to you folks and trying to get some feedback about your experience having been on the action committees. But, interacting with you for these past 5 years, I do know there's a certain frustration about the limits of what you can and cannot do. And I think there's lots of ways to improve, looking at some other examples about how committees like yours with the intended purpose of the action committee, how they're organized. I can certainly see there is a deep need in the county to have this sort of space filled between what we can do as county and the officials and whatnot, and what the public needs. There's definitely a need for the ACs, but I think there's also a lot of room for improvement, so that you guys can do more of what you've expressed in your meetings that you want to do in terms of steering our future and fulfilling some of the requirements or recommendations of the community development plan, because that's what you're tasked to do. But I have to say, in terms of the way that it's currently structured, you're pretty limited, and I know that's frustrating for you, and it's frustrating for me as well. So we're having those meetings, and just so you know that we will be coming at some point to talk to you about your experience. That kind of falls into the general plan discussion. So the council has received the general plan, and we've had our first hearings on it. Our plan is to review the general plan in sections over the course of the remainder of this year. And then we won't probably get into in-depth discussions about any amendments to the general plan until early next year. There's a lot that we want to look at, and the conversations have been fruitful to this point. Bethany left, but of course, I hope you guys all know that she was very instrumental in drafting the plan and put a lot of work into it. So she deserves a big pat on the shoulder for that heavy lift. But we intend to go through it very deliberately, as it's only the 4th time we've done this. So there's a lot of new experiences with that. And so that ties into Bill 181, which I had to look up 181 and 112 or 212 because it's been so long. But with 181, which was codifying the process for the update to the general plan, what we opted to do is, because we were in the process of updating the general plan, we thought it was inappropriate to update the process of how to do that. And so we've tabled it for now. And the intention is, once we've completed this process, to come back and do that. I think we settled on a good process, but I think in many ways, going through the process will probably educate us even more about what some of the challenges and issues are, and will probably even result in a better bill. So that's what's happening with 181. 212 was the bill that would have that permits or allows in agricultural areas for buildings less than 1,000 square feet to not 1,000 square feet or less to not require a permit, and to increase the improvement limit to $25,000 for improvements that you can do on your home without having to go in and get a permit. So that did pass. It's important to note that, certain things like electrical and plumbing work will still need a permit. Those are improvements that don't involve those sorts of things. So that did pass. As far as Bill 121, so that is the short-term vacation rental bill. We made the determination that it was just too much all in one bill. And so what we did at the beginning of this year was separate it out into different components. And so we did pass the first and most important component in June, and it takes effect in December. And it is exclusively a registration process. So anybody that is operating a short-term vacation rental, hosted or unhosted, will have to register with the county, and they will have to renew it annually and provide certain documents, make sure that they're up to date on their property taxes. They have a TET and GE license. And that registration process, will allow to ensure that everybody's operating legally and how they're supposed to be. We did get the results of an economic study. So there was an economic study requested by resolution as part of this whole process. And there's a lot of good information up on there. It is available now on the Hawaii County TAR.com website, the economic study. What I think is probably the most relevant little paragraph that you can find in there is that based on the number of short-term vacation rentals that the consultant identified through looking at Airbnb and VRBO and all of those different websites that exist on Hawaii Island, what the average nightly rate is and what their occupancy rate is, the county should be collecting, hold your hats, $12 million more per year than we're currently collecting in TAT. So I think we can all think of things that we would do with an extra $12 million a year, and that's just TAT. It's another 1.6 in general excise. But that's all based on the assumptions of what the consultant collected as far as short-term vacation rentals operating in the district. What's important to note about the bill is that it doesn't change any of the land use. So the existing land use laws still apply. And in terms of like on agricultural land, you are not permitted already by state law. This is something we've talked about, to have a transient vacation rental in an additional farm dwelling. So, people can build additional farm dwellings on ag land, but per the Hawaii state revised statutes, you cannot use these additional farm dwellings for short-term vacation rentals. So that will be not allowed. It doesn't say that expressly in the bill, but we don't need to because it's already law. Yeah, and so there have been some folks who are like, you didn't regulate on ag land. It's like, well, yes, we did, because we said everybody had to follow the law. And there's some other provisions in there that I think are maybe not as clear, but because there are laws in place already at the state level around short-term vacation rentals, we're kind of covered by that, and we didn't feel it was necessary to duplicate it in the county ordinance. So that is underway. If people fail to register, the fine is pretty significant. It's $10,000. So it's going to be, people are going to be incentivized to register. And if they don't register, The director also has the ability to add an additional fine of 2 times their nightly rate. Because there are places out there that are running for like $6,000 a night. They don't really care about 10 grand, but you and I do, of course, but they don't. And so having that additional fine of 2 times the nightly rate is really meant to be a pretty big stick to help with our enforcement. There'll be 3 additional bills following up. One is to update the standards of operation, the quiet hours and required parking and signage and things like that. And then there'll be a land use amendment that clarifies some things that are unclear with the current existing law. And then finally, we'll follow it up with, there is still an intention to put forward something that identifies certain areas where we know there's a lot of short-term vacation rentals already and call those vacation nodes. So resorts wouldn't be allowed there, but the vacation rentals would no longer be considered a non-conforming use in those areas. So that's the plan moving forward. A lot, I know, but I learned my lesson, don't try to put it all in one bill. Break it up into meaningful pieces, but the registration was the biggest piece. And so I'm pretty excited to see that go forward. And I think it'll help a lot with enforcement against illegal rentals. So happy to take any questions. And if there's anything else that's recent that you want me to go into, there's just been a lot. A lot of it has been about cats. I had to talk about cats, but that's kind of the big things right now.
Okay.
One quick question.
Yes.
So the council is not allowed or will not be allowed this year to amend the general plan.
No, we are allowed to, but by choice, we're taking our time with it. So it's broken up into sections. We'll have a presentation from planning about each sections, ask questions, and then we'll get it's just like any other bill. We can amend it and pass it in committee and pass it to council once we get there. But we're choosing to kind of go through it step by step and then get into the amendments later on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We could amend it now if we wanted to. It's on the floor just like any other bill.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's going to be in 2026.
Most
what you
likely.
guys are gonna-
Yeah. I mean, we're already in, can you believe it? August, the middle of, and we just last month went through, or a couple weeks ago, went through the first chapter, the introductory chapter. And so next week, Wednesday, we're going through the next chapter and we'll just go through it step by step.
If the county council amends the general plan, does it have to go back to the planning department and through the planning commission and then back to the council again?
So the decision from the previous corporation council was that if it were not a substantive amendment, then we could just amend it and it didn't have to go through back to the commissions. Well, a substantive amendment would potentially, but it's up to the council to determine what is substantive and what is not. And so there's certainly the possibility that it could go back if we're doing, it's hard to say what is a substantive amendment when the entire thing is a replacement of the existing plan, right? So that's going to be a bridge we cross when we get to it. I don't know, but there is that possibility that an amendment could generate a return to the commissions for their input.
Yeah, I see.
As I said, we don't do this a lot, so we're kind of learning as we go.
Okay. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, anytime.
All right, as far as next item, which is the new business, any committee members have items they would like to agendize for our next meeting?
I have a question to ask, maybe Heather first. You know that Hāmākua sign? Who is the mover and shaker behind that one? That did that? Okay.
It was.
Huh? What's that? Oh, yeah. She.
So my name is Wanda Lewis. I'm the secretary for Pipakio Community Development Corporation. We call ourselves PCDC because who can keep saying that word over and over? Anyway, PCDC has a fishing association and we work together with Makahanaloa Fishing Association. It was proposed by Makahanaloa, and we worked together to get it, going. So that's why you see the signs up there now. That was the first phase, and they're working on the second phase, which is going to continue going through Hāmākua. We haven't forgotten where we're going to start from and where we're going to end. We're not done yet.
Thank you so much. I have another follow-up question on this. I attended the Makahanaloa fishing group meeting. I was very impressed by the age of those group. They're very young men, anywhere from 30, 40, with families, but their heart is really about what they can teach their children. The local culture I think it's more than simply a group that wants access to fishing ground. That's only the beginning. This is really an example. And the things I heard that always impressed me was, I want to take my children to teach them what grandpa said, where to fish for ulupa, because if I fall in the water, I won't go off, I'll be just circled within the bay. These are common things that are quickly forgotten or passed on, but Makahanaloa, I think, really try to elevate that. But, I see them wanting this, but after I saw the Aupua sign, I says, my goodness, this may be the group that drive this perception of Mauka Makai. So this is an issue that I can't define the issue for the next agenda, but the head of the DAR division in East Hawaii is Ryan O'Connell, who grew up in Pipakio, right?
Yes.
He
Yep.
fishes long time, but he talks about I'm part of the group with him in the Fishermen's Working Group for the state. So my job is to see how can we close the silos between county and state government. I think the county is more open to thinking. The state is pretty stuck on the ocean only. So Ryan told me that one of the programs they talked about last year, or for next year's proposal, is Kahawai Watch. There's something called a Makai Watch, where you keep an eye on those bad players. Kahawai Watch is really excellent because Ryan told me he constantly gets complained about people diverting streams, people doing things. So the thing is, this is a great idea, but our community development plan is really focused on agriculture. I'm so concerned that agriculture practitioners sometimes go overboard and treat streams as a place to wash their vegetable products. They divert that stuff. So I always say, maybe Makahanaloa will be a great place as a vehicle to carry this concept that is a connectivity between ocean productivity and stream flow. They can be the eyes and ears, and they can understand this connectivity, because I was very impressed. And what I like to recommend, maybe I can, maybe you can invite somebody from your group to talk about your vision.
So let me be clear. I'm not from Makahanaloa. I work with Makahanaloa Fishing Association. There's two fishing associations here in Pipakio.
Oh.
The first one is PCDC's Fishing Access. That's the one that I'm on the committee with. And then there's Makahanaloa. The reason there are two separate fishing associations is because initially, when the Fishing Access Committee was made, this membership, the bylaws state that we're only within the Pipakio zip code.
Ah.
And the men they did this in 2019. In 2019, the committee and members wanted to go outside of Pipakio. So by doing that, they voted and they formed a new fishing access which is now called Makahanaloa.
Oh, I see.
So the people always get a little confused with the two, or they mesh the two. PCDC's Fishing Association is specifically for the Pipikio shoreline. Makahanaloa does work. We work hand in hand with our members, because a lot of our members who are on Makahanaloa are also on our Pipikio's fishing committee, because the vehicular access to the shoreline, PCDC manages that, not Makahanaloa. So that's the difference between the two. But yes, we do work hand in hand. And a lot of what you're talking about with Makahanaloa in preserving and managing, PCDC does with them. We work together with them. In fact, we do what we call our Aloha Aina Day. We do it 6 times a year, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the circumstances, where we go down to the shoreline, specifically for us in Pipikeo, to go and take care of the shoreline, take care of, so that our generations, exactly what you said, sir, our generations to come can do the same thing, because they do talk about what grandpa used to do or what grandma used to do. And when they do the fishing, when they go, down to the shoreline to fish, it's to fish for what they need and maybe a little bit extra to give to a neighbor, but it's not to break it, so to speak, so that there's not for the next generation. And that's what both of the fishing associations look at doing, along with preserving preventing the erosion along the shoreline.
See, I know it's a big push, because when I joined this group, I really searched hard to see anything with fishing. There's a few words, and thank you for being so tolerant. But people want to get bus stops, stations, those everyday things. But the fact that your river runs through your Hāmākua, and the state, I don't think personally, because I used to work for the state, does not carry that message to the community. Yeah, always making laws. But this may be a vehicle that may satisfy the saying in the community plan. What's good for the Aina is good for the people. So I think with that in mind, what I'd like to recommend, Mr. Chairman, is maybe I'll invite Ryan O'Connell from DAR to talk about what they do and how they can incorporate with the county and basically bring more participation by members to come to these meetings. Yeah, so anyway, I'd like to do that, and I'll be responsible. And if he doesn't show up, then I'll take his place. Well, you can take my place, maybe. But I'd like to bring this issue to the floor, because it's more than simply roads and bus stops. It's also about your Aina, yeah? And people live, it's really about subsistence, yeah? As opposed to recreational. West Hawaii is going the other way. East Hawaii need to preserve to focus on subsistence fishing. So anyway, I'll stop that. So if you permit me, sir, I'd like to have that on the agenda as an informational meeting on DAR's role in the ocean and some of this group that are doing these things.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that, anything else? Any other, agenda items? I know you'll update us on that public notice thing that we are proposing.
One other thing that's related that might be of interest, just from an informational standpoint, is I am working with PCDC and the Fishing Association on a resolution that really lays out for this area what all the public easements are and who's responsible for maintaining them. If you're not aware, there were a series of agreements and ordinances and a lot of paperwork with different things established at different places and different times. And some of the easements are required to be managed by the landowner. Some of them are required to be managed by the county, which is unusual, as you know, for the county when there's a subdivision action for us to actually, we create the easements typically, but we don't also agree to manage them. Somebody wasn't reading the fine print when they signed the agreement. But we have a situation now where we have these easements and they're not managed. And so this is sort of a first step to solve the problem for these folks and make sure that the access is managed, but it's kind of an initial step also for what we're looking at for a longer term trail system on the Hāmākua coast, which I've mentioned many times and it's still moving forward. So, I'd love to be able to have a presentation either from PCDC or myself about the resolution. We're looking at having it go through the council sometime in October, but I think it'd be the kind of thing where if you guys were able to testify and support in some way, that would be really meaningful.
So if we have an issue about improvements for this community, how do we go by? We have to go by the county or any department that needs to tackle that issue. Just like, give you an example. The road in Hāmākua, they did the road inside, but the road coming from the highway going to the Mamaloa Highway, it's not done. I'm sorry, but I observed this. Why are you making this nice road inside? Then from the highway itself, you're going on the community and you're running to a rugged road, and then you're gonna come. Oh, nice. That's one example. Now, another example is this Hāmākua Community Center. I just drive through there yesterday to look at it, and my God, that place is like a homeless place. It's running down. I would like you to see that because this is part of our. Now it's our, but again, there's some issue that I want to introduce or I want to lay down to make this place a better place for us. I have some issue.
Yeah, I think maybe, so the answer like to your first question is kind of, it depends. Like it depends on if it's a road, if it's a park facility. It depends if it's something like the bus stops that require state and county interaction. So, maybe I'll think about it. There's maybe an opportunity to kind of agendize some sort of presentation either from I think maybe having some presentations maybe sequentially from the departments about how to put in complaints and how to interact with them might be helpful. I've been finding like with DPW, so the roadway issue, paving, that's the Department of Public Works, of course, that I'm getting a more immediate response from them if I fill out their online form than if I make a phone call, which is interesting, but also cool because now there's a place where I am getting pretty decent feedback. So it might be useful to have that kind of thing. Similarly, parks, they did increase the parks maintenance budget, but we have something like 300 facilities and all of them are in various stages of disrepair. So they're prioritizing and having to triage some of these places. I know in your area, that you have a pavilion that's been closed up with no bathrooms and covered in fire ants. I just still stop by from time to time and I sit down on the bench because I love that little spot, and then I get all bitten up and miserable. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important for me to be really transparent with everyone right now about the fiscal situation the county is finding itself in, with pretty significant wastewater expenses that are mandated and the likelihood of some important programs from the federal side being cut. We're going to be in kind of a tight spot for a lot of things. And our only option is to look at property tax rates, and nobody wants that, right? So we have to be judicious. I think that there are better ways to do some of the things that we do to be more cost effective and efficient. But we are going to find ourselves in a tight spot, especially with costs going up too. Like we're not even sure. One of the things, sorry, one of the things we're finding right now is when we put out projects to bid, like trying to repair Hāmākua gym, the engineers, the contractors, they're not bidding because they don't want to be committed to a number to do the work because their materials costs are included in the bid until they know what those materials are going to cost. And steel's been going, through the roof. So, I mean, what do we do as the county when we have to bid a project out and nobody bids on it? It's I'm trying to be optimistic, but things are looking a little gloomy ahead here. So we have to do the best as we can as community members to support each other, help each other out, and do what we can in our own backyards to support our community here locally, because we're going to have some challenges. Sorry, somebody say something. I don't want to.
Well,
Never mind.
okay. I'll end on a happy announcement, and that is that Heather has gathered together a group of presenters on the to address the issue of wildfire preparedness. And this has become a major issue up in the Hāmākua area recently. We've had so many call outs for the fire department to suppress wildfires there so anyway, on Tuesday, October 26th at 5:30, we'll have Heather will be there via Zoom, and we have Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization and the fire department and the police department and civil defense and Vibrant Hawaii making presentations. So that will be an important point for at least the North Hāmākua area.
Okay, any other, we're getting close to the time limit, the time, so I'd like to sort of move ahead. So, are there if there are any agenda items that you guys think of after the meeting, just let me or Mahealani or Mariam know. And you can just email on cdp@hawaiicounty.gov. And let's see, in advance of our next meeting. And let's see. We are always we're short of our full contingent as far as the AC committee. So we are 5 now for a quorum, but we have 4 more openings. So put the word out. And applications are found on the mayor's office website. And I believe it's Micah Alameda that's in charge of recruiting. So put people in contact with him. And any other announcements from committee or anybody else before we vote to adjourn?
Our meetings are on the second Wednesday of each month.
So we're shooting for first Wednesdays. We have a conflict for court, right? So now we need everybody to show up. So Uncle Brad will be off island, I believe is what it happened. And so we're shooting for October 1st. Is that the date? That's the first Wednesday. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, October 1st.
It'll give the committee some time to push on some of these items. But I think just so you guys know, since you've been gone, not to be so negative, Nancy, like earlier, but just so you guys know that planning department, we did lose staff members through federal funding cuts. Okay, we lost, I think as a department as a whole, we lost like around 7 staff members or so. 3 of those were within long range division, so that's our division. We don't have a clerk anymore, and we lost 2 senior planners. So, if we were talking about having capacity issues last year, it's only quadrupled now within our division. We're working on finding solutions, and we're working on, figuring things out, as we find more turnover stuff.
Can you help them in any way?
Huh?
Oh, I'm talking to Heather.
Oh, oh.
Yeah, that's probably, that's why I look so tired and I think it's
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that 12 million that Heather mentioned earlier today. I have a laundry list. So, yeah, we're pushing, and as we, we're taking it step by step. We're open to having the meetings, making sure we have enough content for the meetings, and making sure it's an effective, efficient use of time. A lot of what we, and as staff have learned a lot in these past months, we've been finding ways to optimize working outside of the public hearing. Not that we're not disclosing what we're doing, but a lot of the groundwork can be done outside of these meetings, and then we just need those final pushes at these meetings, that final decision making and votes for the letters and whatnot. Whereas, so I know that, yeah. So there's a lot of we're here, we're still here, we're still showing up. We're providing hybrid, but yeah. So that's what we're shooting for. Every other month is what we're shooting for with the cadence, and we coming 2026 we can come on and do a new cadence, is what we, just like how we do every year. New chair, new cadence, and then staff will map out and book all the venues. Hāmākua's venues are also a little bit limited right now with the construction happening at where Papa'aloa.
It's major.
And in terms of the dates that we have in terms of Wednesdays.
Is that where we're looking?
We're
In the
looking at
middle now?
keeping
La
Wednesdays.
Pahoehoe or Papaloa,
It would be
or not Papaloa?
Kulaimano. Onamujim, we're gonna give that one a try next time, or one of these times. Pa'awilo.
Is there service
Manaka'a.
over there?
Say that?
Onamu?
Onamu, we're gonna give that one a try. We did a site visit. They got Wi-Fi. We got Wi-Fi. We had done Pa'awilo before, and we had a really hard time with the audio. I'm hoping this new sound system fixes that problem. That's why we're putting it back on the list to give it another try. But yeah, those are all our pieces. If there is like an urgent matter, we can talk about it and we can see what we can schedule. But for the most part, that's kind of what we're shooting for at the moment.
Okay, so we're at 7:08. And can adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Second.
Huh? You got something else?
No, I said I second.
Okay, we're not even voting.
Bye, Vice Chair.
Amiho.
Thanks, my Launi.
Thank you, thank you.
Aloha. Thanks, guys.